You know the strange relief that arrives when you let yourself collapse. The body goes slack, the list drops, the phone stays unanswered. You tell yourself you will try tomorrow and feel a small quiet inside that almost tastes like mercy. You call it rest. You call it being realistic. You call it not pushing too hard. Underneath, something else is happening. A part of you is sipping a feeling that says no one expects anything from you right now. That feeling tastes good because it ends the pressure. The same way a drug ends the pressure, briefly, cleanly, with a cost you do not count yet. To be honest, weakness has a comfort that strength cannot offer at first. Weakness asks nothing of you. It does not require effort or exposure. It gives you an excuse that sounds kind. I am tired, I am overwhelmed, I am not built for this. You are not lying, you are soothing. The soothing works until it does not. You notice that your life shrinks by inches while the relief demands more space. Evenings blur, promises slip. The future turns into a hallway you do not walk down. You call it a phase, your body calls it a pattern. There is an ache that follows this routine. The ache of watching yourself avoid the very moves that would have changed your days. You keep telling stories that make the avoiding look wise. You say you are waiting for the right moment. You say you are protecting your peace. You say you are choosing balance. Under the stories lives a simpler truth. Weakness gives fast comfort. Fast comfort trains the brain. The next time effort asks for you, your system remembers the sweet silence of not trying and reaches for it again. Weakness is addictive because it comes wrapped as care. No one argues with you for choosing softness. You even get applause for calling off the hard thing in the name of mental health. Sometimes that is real care. Often it is camouflage. You can tell by your breath. Real care restores breath and returns you to yourself. Camouflage keeps you numb and asks for another dose tomorrow. You are not broken for wanting the dose. You are tired of carrying expectations alone. You are tired of the critic that never shuts up. You are tired of the rooms where effort led to humiliation instead of support. Choosing collapse makes sense when the world has not been kind to your attempts. The problem is that the collapse begins to define you. You start planning your life around avoiding activation. You stop making offers that would be refused. You stop saying truths that would be challenged. You stop risking the kind of contact that would wake your strength again. The body keeps the score in plain ways. Shoulders curve forward to signal that you are not a threat. Breath stays shallow so you never feel enough energy to attempt. Eyes slide away to avoid the spark of wanting. You feel safe and small at the same time. Safe because nothing is demanded. Small because nothing living inside you gets to expand. The safety is alone with interest. The payments show up as dull days and nights that do not heal anything. This might sound harsh, but weakness becomes a lifestyle long before you call it one. A small skip becomes a habit becomes an identity. I am the person who needs to take it slow. I am the person who cannot handle intensity. I am the person who used to try. The identity keeps the world from asking and keeps you from answering. It also keeps your stored strength in the basement, where it turns into restlessness and resentment. You can feel both in your chest even now. Most psychologists will not tell you this in a single breath. Weakness is not only a deficit, it is a strategy. It lowers the stakes. It protects you from shame by making sure you never stand where shame could find you. It protects you from grief by making sure you never want deeply enough to risk losing. It protects you from anger by keeping you out of conflicts where a boundary would be required. Protection that never ends turns into a cage that never opens. You are not alone in this. Many of us built softness as a shield and then fell asleep behind it. The wake-up is not a motivational speech. The wake-up is the quiet recognition that the dose no longer works without stealing something you cannot afford to lose. Your time, your courage, your ability to look in the mirror and recognize yourself. By the end of this video, You will understand why your pain is a gift and why the weakness you keep choosing feels like medicine while it slowly steals your life. Stay with me. I will not rush you or shame you. I will sit with you in the truth that relief can be addictive and that there is another way back to strength that does not require pretending you are not hurting. Positive advice says weakness ends when you think brighter thoughts and speak gentler words to yourself. Repeat the mantra. Visualize success. Breathe and believe. To be honest, belief without backbone turns into fantasy. You paste hopeful sentences over a body trained to fold. The moment strain returns, the old collapse arrives on schedule. You did not fail affirmation. Affirmation failed to reach the place where the collapse lives. Productivity sells a cleaner cure. Plan perfectly. Track every habit. Stack micro wins. The dashboards look heroic while you arrange your life to avoid honest friction. You organize yourself into a corner and call it progress. Weakness loves this corner because no real risk enters. You feel efficient and remain untested. The day looks full and your spine stays empty. Self-help gives the sweetest lift. A model explains your patterns. A book names your trait. Labels bring relief because they tidy chaos. Relief feels like healing and you stop there. Here is what they do not tell their patients. Explanation without exposure feeds the addiction. You become fluent in your limits and illiterate in your strength. You can articulate why you collapse and still never let your body practice staying when heat rises. Therapy can join the loop when it never leaves the safety of words. You map your childhood, your triggers, your defensive styles. You sound awake. You exit the room and resume the same soft exit from your life. Most psychologists will not tell you this in a single breath. The nervous system updates when behavior meets sensation under pressure. Without that contact, insight becomes a museum of good intentions. Culture crowns certain versions of weakness and calls them virtues. Constant softness is named kindness. Self-erasure is named humility. Endless caretaking is named love. This might sound harsh, but many celebrated virtues become camouflage for avoidance when they never ask anything hard from you. Kindness without edge becomes permission for disrespect. Humility without agency becomes a mask for fear. Care without boundary becomes a drip that keeps everyone asleep. There is a modern comfort narrative that confuses sedation with recovery. Cancel when uncomfortable. Call every strain harm. Label every demand toxic. Sometimes canceling is real care. Often it is an elegant way to skip the very exposures that would grow your capacity. You can tell by the aftermath. Real care returns presence, avoidance returns numbness, and a hunger for another excuse tomorrow. Spiritual language can polish the addiction until it shines. Surrender to timing, trust the universe, forgive and release. Without a spine, surrender is resignation, trust is passivity, forgiveness is amnesia. The words sound holy while your body keeps shrinking from necessary friction. Goodness without backbone is self-abandonment written in calligraphy. Another illusion says time heals everything. Time without contact builds scar tissue around an unfinished wave. Weeks pass, then years, and the same small trigger produces the same big collapse. You call it who you are and make a home inside a symptom. Time does not heal avoidance. Time trains it. Confidence is sold as the precondition for action. Wait until you feel ready and the collapse will not return. Readiness grows from repetition under manageable strain. Action teaches the body what the mind keeps promising. Confidence is the echo that follows experience, not the permission slip that precedes it. The health industry adds a glossy version of permission, energy hacks, bio tips, recovery days that expand into a lifestyle of deferral. Optimization replaces exertion. You perfect the warm-up and never lift the weight. Weakness thrives because you never create a safe failure where shame can burn off and dignity can arrive. The body remains unconvinced and reaches for the familiar dose of collapse at the first sign of heat. Family programs bless the addiction with moral language. Be easy. Be grateful. Do not make trouble. If you learned love through manageability, collapse will feel righteous. Staying small will feel noble. You will hear praise for being low maintenance, and your nervous system will take that praise as proof that disappearance equals safety. The price is a life that cannot expand because expansion would violate the family creed. There is also the sweet reward of attention. Collapse gathers caretakers. Softness attracts rescuers. The room warms when you fold, and the warmth stamps the move as survival. Intermittent relief is the strongest teacher. A burst of comfort after a retreat convinces the brain that retreat is the door home. You repeat it until repetition becomes identity. Here is what they do not tell their patients in glossy programs. Weakness pays an immediate relief, public absolution, and escape from accountability. The payment arrives now. The bill arrives later as fragility, thin relationships, and a private sense that you cannot trust yourself under pressure. The short reward trains the long loss. To be honest, some systems benefit from your collapse. Workplaces prefer predictably small asks. Families prefer the version of you that never disrupts the peace. Partners who fear their own strength prefer a partner who will not require theirs. Praise flows to the least disruptive person in the room. Praise feels like love and teaches you to keep dosing yourself with less. Not everyone is ready to hear this. Weakness becomes an identity you can wear in any room and receive comfort instead of challenge. Taking it off feels like betrayal. It is not betrayal. It is sobriety. You can still be gentle. You can still be tender. You stop using gentleness as a shield against growth. The last illusion is the most seductive. You tell yourself that naming your weakness is bravery and that the naming is enough. Naming is the doorway. Walking through requires friction. The dose loses power only when you replace it with small experiences of staying present where you used to flee. Anything else is another flavor of the drug. But there is something even scarier than the addiction to weakness, and we will get to that. If you recognize the sweet relief of collapse and you're ready to stop dosing yourself with it, if this feels like it's about you, subscribe to the channel. The algorithm will show this to others ready to face their shadow. To be honest, weakness did not start as a moral failure. It started as a survival move your nervous system learned long before you had words for it. Freud gave a plain frame. The mind moves toward quick relief and away from pain. That is the pleasure principle. It kept you intact when life was too big. Later, the reality principle tries to include time and consequence. Quick relief that steals tomorrow is not relief. It is a loan with interest. When collapse gives you short quiet and long cost, the body still votes for the short quiet because it remembers danger more vividly than calendars. This is why smart people repeat the same soft exit while calling it self-care. The body is choosing yesterday's safety over tomorrow's life. Jung offered a map for the part that got buried to make this work. Shadow is every force you pushed out of sight to belong. Anger that would have drawn a line, desire that would have made you visible, power that would have set direction, grief that would have asked for care. You did not delete these, you stored them. Weakness becomes the mask that keeps the storage room locked. You present gentleness because it draws less fire. You present uncertainty because it keeps demands away. The trouble is that the stored forces do not become kind when ignored. They leak through symptoms. Restlessness at night. Bitterness in small moments. Envy of people who risk. Your system is trying to return strength by sending signals you keep labeling as flaws. Under the surface, the stored material ties itself into living knots. Depth psychology calls them complexes. Think of a complex as a loop where sensation, memory, meaning, and impulse spin together and take the wheel when touched. A caretaker loop forms around the belief that usefulness keeps you safe. A victim loop forms around the expectation that life happens to you and other people hold the keys. A martyr loop forms around the idea that suffering proves you are good. When a loop activates, your breath changes before your thoughts do. The chest drops, the jaw clenches, the shoulders fold. Then the familiar story arrives to justify the posture. This is why insight alone does not change the move. You do not pick the loop with logic. The loop picks you through sensation. Most psychologists will not tell you this in a single breath. Weakness is not only an idea, it is a body state. The freeze you learned in a loud room becomes the way you meet ordinary stress. The fawn you learned with a volatile parent becomes the way you meet authority and love. The body lowers energy as a shield, and your mind writes an essay about being realistic. You are not lying. You are translating a reflex into a philosophy. That philosophy will not budge until the body gets a new experience under manageable strain. The inner critic keeps the addiction supplied. It promises safety by punishing effort before the world can. It says do less so you cannot be judged for failing at more. It says stay small so the target on your back stays small. Here is what they do not tell their patients. The critic is a frightened protector, not the truth. It borrows the voices that once held power over you and repeats them to stop you from stepping into rooms where shame once happened. Weakness gives the critic evidence that you are safer when you do not try. Strength gathers counter-evidence. The critic quiets when your cells record that heat rises and falls and you remain. Family programs install the operating system. Be easy. Be grateful. Keep the peace. If love required manageability, collapse will feel righteous while assertion feels like a crime. You wear humility like armor long after you no longer need it. Culture then rewards the costume. Applause flows to the person who demands nothing. Titles like dependable and chill land on your shoulders while your life grows smaller. The praise feels warm and trains the dose. Archetypes explain why the slide feels absolute. When the sovereign is exiled, there is no inner authority to set direction. When the warrior is benched, there is no courage to meet friction. When the lover goes numb, there is no pulse that makes effort worth it. When the caregiver rules without the others, you pour out and never refill. Integration is simple to name and hard to live. Invite the sovereign back to make decisions that include your future self. Invite the warrior to give your body a spine when heat arrives. Invite the lover to keep your heart open so strength does not turn into stone. Invite the caregiver to bring mercy without erasing truth. Weakness hates this meeting because a balanced house does not need sedative identity. Freud also described defenses that keep the dose flowing. Rationalization wraps collapse in good reasons. Projection turns your own stored power into fear of powerful people. Displacement moves anger from the old source to safe targets like your schedule or your body. Intellectualization creates elegant distance from feeling. Spiritual bypass floats above pain and calls it transcendence. These defenses saved you in rooms where honesty was dangerous. They now keep unfinished waves from completing. Completion looks like heat in the chest, breath that deepens, shaking that passes, tears that arrive and recede. Completion is not collapse. Completion is movement that ends. Trauma translates all of this into the language of reflex. Trauma is unspent energy the body still carries. The heart that learned to race without resolution becomes a drum that never quiets. The throat that learned to close refuses to open on command. The diaphragm that learned to hold makes even small efforts feel impossible. Weakness feels like truth when it is often a freeze that needs thaw, a fawn that needs a line, a flight that needs a safe return. Most psychologists will not say it this bluntly. The nervous system updates through experiences of safe challenge that end in completion. Words alone will not convince it. There is also the quiet economy of secondary gain. Weakness buys you cover. Fewer expectations from others. Fewer demands from yourself. More comfort from people who prefer you dependent. Less risk of envy or rivalry. The price is paid later in dignity and capacity. When the bill arrives, you reach for another dose of softness to numb it. The loop reinforces itself because the relief is immediate and the loss is delayed. Not everyone is ready to hear this. Weakness often carries virtue on its back. You call it humility. You call it gentleness. You call it surrender. The test is simple and merciless. Does the state return you to presence, or does it ask for more absence tomorrow? Presence can be soft and does not collapse your spine. Presence can be tender and still tells the truth. Presence can cry and still chooses. The dose cannot do this. The dose steals next week to soothe this hour. Mechanically, the way out looks paradoxical and plain. You need small exposures that contradict the body's prediction without drowning it. You need to feel a mild wave of activation while keeping your eyes open and your breath low. You need to finish tiny efforts that raise your pulse and end. You need to speak one honest sentence and remain while the heat peaks and falls. You need to choose a boundary that protects connection instead of punishing it. Each repetition tells the system that aliveness is survivable. Strength is not a mood you wait for. Strength is a memory your body builds. Identity is the last lock on the door. I am the sensitive one. I am the tired one. I am the one who cannot. These names delivered belonging in past rooms. They became a leash. You are allowed new names. I am the one who rests and then acts. I am the one who feels and then chooses. I am the one who meets small challenges on purpose. Names are not magic. They are promises you keep with behavior until they match your bones. Here is what they do not tell their patients in glossy programs. You do not become strong by rejecting weakness. You become strong by refusing to use weakness as an exit. You let softness exist without letting it rule. You let fear speak without handing it the wheel. You bring your warrior to stand beside your lover, your sovereign to stand beside your caregiver. The inner house learns balance through action, not through slogans. This might sound harsh, but the dose will still call. It will call when you are tired. It will call when shame spikes. It will call when success makes you visible. Expect the call. Plan a smaller answer. One breath that drops low. One posture that gains a proud inch. One effort that ends. One truth spoken in one sentence. These are not heroic gestures. These are the bricks that rebuild trust with yourself. And here comes the hinge that turns the whole door. Weakness stops being addictive the moment its fastest rewards are no longer your highest values. Relief fades in the presence of dignity. Numbness loses its pull in the presence of honest contact. Short quiet cannot compete with the steadiness that grows when you meet a wave and remain. The next section will show you how to train that steadiness until your system prefers it over the old dose. Most tools sound impressive until a tired afternoon arrives and the old soft exit calls your name. To be honest, the only practices that change this pattern are the ones your body can do when pressure rises. Think small, repeatable, and finishable. Safety first, intensity second. Begin with a daily strength minute that you choose. Sit or stand where you will not be disturbed. Let your spine gain a proud inch. Place a hand on your sternum and wait until the breath meets your palm. Stay until the first urge to drift arrives and remain one more minute. That extra minute is where the body learns that activation rises, peaks, and settles while you stay. If you overshoot and flood, you shorten the next attempt. Consistency beats heroics. Pair the sit with a simple reversal of collapse. Shoulders back a little, eyes level, jaw soft, breath low. Most psychologists will not tell you this in a single sentence. Posture is a nervous system message. You are not bargaining with weakness. You are teaching your cells that presence is possible. Build a no exit rule that removes debate. A no exit is a predecision that protects you when the dose whispers later. Examples spoken out loud work best. Effort comes before comfort. I do not cancel on myself to avoid heat. I end what I start in small portions. No exits are a scaffold for days when belief is thin. Run micro reps that end in completion. Pick one small effort that raises your pulse and finishes. A brisk walk to the corner and back. A set of slow presses against a wall. a short, tidy of one surface. Completion is the antidote to collapse because it delivers relief after contact, not relief instead of contact. Your body records the difference. Use titration so you do not drown. Take discomfort in sips. Allow the wave for a handful of breaths, then orient to the room by naming plain details under your breath. A door frame, a mug, a crease in the curtain. Repeat. The goal is capacity, not catharsis. Use pendulation when the pull to numb spikes. Move attention between the hot spot in your body and a neutral anchor like the soles of your feet. Back and forth like a tide. Here is what they do not tell their patients. Range is resilience. When your system learns it can move between activation and neutrality, collapse loses its claim that it is the only safe place. Install a two-line truth for hard moments. First line, name the body state in simple words. Heavy chest, fast mind, cold belly. Second line, name the next right inch. Send the message. Stand up, drink water, step outside. Truth plus inch prevents the story from taking the wheel. Create a friction design that blocks the easy dose and makes strength reachable. Put the phone in another room during your strength minute. Lay out shoes before bed so effort beats hesitation in the morning. Place a small card where you work with 3 words. Breathe, posture, finish. You do not need more willpower. You need fewer exits. Practice anti-bypass honesty. When the urge to spiritualize avoidance arrives, answer with a sober sentence. I am not surrendering, I am delaying contact. Then do one small exposure anyway. A single call, one honest line, 1 minute of work. Weakness survives on stories. Stories weaken when action arrives. Invite the inner team you benched. Say it quietly so your system hears a human voice. Warrior lends spine for the next inch. Sovereign sets direction that includes my future self. Lover keeps my heart open so effort does not turn to stone. Caregiver brings mercy without erasing truth. Roles spoken become roles available. Run a weekly shadow check. Write one place where collapse pays you. Attention, escape from judgment. Permission to withdraw. Write one cost. Thin confidence, quiet resentment. Dull days. Then choose one replacement act that returns dignity. A boundary, a finished task, a brief exertion. Most psychologists will not tell you this with enough bluntness. Secondary gain is the fuel. Naming it out loud cuts the line. Create a relapse plan before you need it. When collapse wins around, you will not perform shame, you will run a repair. Say one sentence, I left myself there, and I am returning now. Then complete one tiny effort that ends. Repair builds trust faster than perfection ever did. Shift how you rest, so rest stops feeding the addiction. Rest that restores includes contact with your body and ends on purpose. A quiet walk without screens. A short nap with an alarm. Music with eyes open and breath low. Rest that sedates is an open door to tomorrow's collapse. You can feel the difference in your chest after it ends. Train truth in relationships so softness stops being your shield. Speak from inside your skin. Here is what happens in my body when I withdraw. Here is what I need to remain present. Here is the pace I can keep without disappearing. This might sound harsh, but people who want the collapsed version of you may not welcome this. Their reaction is data. Your job is to remain. Build an evidence bank so doubt cannot erase progress. After each small enforcement or effort, write one plain line. I stayed with the heat and it passed. I finished a task when the dose called. I rested in a way that returned breath. On fragile mornings, you write a few lines to remind the body what it already knows. If panic waves or long collapse make life unworkable, you bring in steady professional support that can move at your nervous system's pace. Help is not weakness. Help is scaffolding while you rebuild. Not everyone is ready to hear this. The dose offers fast quiet and asks for your future in exchange. You are choosing slow steadiness that returns your future to your hands. Start where fear is mild. One proud inch of posture, one breath that drops low, one small effort that ends, one honest line spoken before the old exit. Repeat tomorrow. Dignity compounds in small deposits. The addiction loses its glamour when presence begins to feel like home. And here comes the most painful truth. Weakness does not leave. It waits at the edge of every hard hour and offers the same fast mercy. You choose it or you choose something steadier. To be honest, the choice is not between pain and comfort. The choice is between short comfort that empties you and slow dignity that fills you. Weakness gives you relief before contact. Strength gives you relief after contact. One steals tomorrow, one builds it. This might sound harsh, but collapse has become part of your identity because it paid you in attention, absolution, and safety. You build a life around avoiding the rooms where your strength would be required. The invoice is due. It arrives as thin confidence, stalled projects, and a private sense that you cannot trust yourself when heat rises. You are not cursed, you are conditioned. Conditioning can be retrained. Most psychologists will not tell you this in a single breath. Strength is not the absence of softness. Strength is the ability to remain soft without leaving yourself. It is the capacity to feel a wave of shame or fear and keep your eyes open, your breath low, your spine present. It is a relationship to pain that says stay, learn, act, not a mood. A memory your body builds through repeated completions. There is a grief in this turn because you will miss the sweet quiet of the dose. Numbness felt like peace. Delay felt like wisdom. Soft exits felt like care. You will stand in sober presence and it will feel boring compared to sedation. Boring is what stability feels like at first. The heart adjusts. Boredom becomes depth. Depth becomes trust. Trust becomes authority over your day. Here is what they do not tell their patients in glossy language. Power is not domination. Power is self-governance. It is your ability to set direction, to hold a boundary that protects connection, to meet challenge in portions your system can carry, to end what you begin. When your sovereign returns, the critic loses its throne. The warrior stops picking fights and starts holding lines. The lover keeps you human. The caregiver brings mercy without erasing truth. Weakness cannot rule a balanced house. Not everyone is ready to hear this. The world will still applaud the version of you that demands nothing and calls it humility. The dose will still whisper that you have earned one more soft exit. The pull will still arrive late at night when you are tired and alone. Expect it. Meet it with one breath that drops low, 1 inch of posture that says present, one act that ends, one truth spoken before you fade. These are the small refusals that break the spell. The real shift is simple. Relief stops being your highest value. Dignity becomes the thing you protect. Presence becomes the drug that needs no dose. You begin to prefer the quiet after effort to the quiet that replaces effort. You begin to prefer the warmth that follows a clean boundary to the warmth that follows collapse. You begin to prefer the mirror where your eyes meet yours without flinching. You will still fall. You will not stay fallen. You will still feel fear. You will not let fear drive. You will still sense the old softness calling. You will not use it as an exit. That is the hinge. That is sobriety. That is the moment your life stops shrinking around avoidance and starts widening around a strength you can trust. This is the threshold you have been circling. Step through. You stayed through the hard parts and you did not disappear. You felt the pull of the soft exit and chose one breath, 1 inch of posture, one act that ends. That is how a life changes off camera. To be honest, sobriety from weakness looks ordinary. It sounds like finishing something small. It looks like telling one clean truth before you fade. It feels like a quiet spine returning under your day. The world may still reward your collapse. Inside, you know the difference now. Relief before contact steals tomorrow. Relief after contact returns you to yourself. You will still hear the old calls. You will greet them with steadiness instead of surrender. You will rest in ways that restore instead of erase. You will offer care that does not cost your dignity. You will let softness sit beside strength without running the show. This is not a personality transplant. This is self-governance practiced in human portions. The mirror begins to meet your eyes without flinching. Your hours begin to belong to you again. Not everyone around you will celebrate this turn. Some preferred you smaller. Some loved the version of you that never asked for anything. Their reaction is information, not a verdict. The ones who love you will adjust to the steadier pace. The ones who only loved your absence will drift. That is not cruelty. That is clarity. If you saw yourself in these words, write in the comments, "I no longer run from pain." Let's see how many are ready for the truth. If you feel it's time to meet your shadow, write, "My darkness is my strength." Let's build a community of those unafraid to look within. If you're ready to drop the mask, write, "I take off the mask." Let's see who's ready for real life. If this video changed something in you, write, "I accept my shadow." Make it your vow to yourself. This is only the beginning.